Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're zeroing in on what looks like a really unique financial opportunity. We're talking about a company called Topsun. Our mission here is to unpack why our sources are suggesting it could see some, well, pretty significant growth, even though it's kind of flying under the radar right now on a lesser-known market. We want to pull out the key insights for you, help you understand what might be an almost hidden catalyst here, something that could unlock real value.
Exactly. And just to set the scene a bit, Topsun is in the renewable energy space. They design and build solar photovoltaic power systems. They're also big into ESS, that's extra large capacity batteries, and EPS, energy power systems, all pretty critical stuff for the grid, especially with renewables. Now, you mentioned the market. They're currently on Connex, and Connex, well, it's not COSDQ or COSPI,
Yeah.
generally lower trading volume. Though it's interesting, sources say individual investors can actually buy, around 10 million KRW worth daily pretty easily.
Okay, so Connex listed. Let's get straight to the numbers then, because this is where it starts to get intriguing. Topsun's market cap as of, let's see, July 28th, 2025, is sitting at 82.8 billion KRW, which on its own is just a number. But how does that stack up against, say, a competitor?
Right, this is the core insight. You put Topsun's 2024 performance next to a COSDQ-listed company, Damium Energy. So in 2024, Topsun did about 118.8 billion KRW in revenue and 7.9 billion KRW operating profit. Okay, now look at Damium Energy. Same year, 67.8 billion revenue, so less revenue, but their operating profit was 9.7 billion KRW. So a little higher, but in the same ballpark.
Okay, similar operating profit levels.
Right.
Slightly less revenue for Daimyo, slightly more profits. Got it.
Exactly.
Exactly. But here's the kicker. Daimyo Energy's market cap, 472.1 billion KRW. That's 5.7 times higher than Topsun's 82.8 billion. Wow, 5.7 times. That's not just a small difference. That feels like a major disconnect. It's like they're in the same race, but one's valued like a Formula One car and the other,
Yeah.
like a go-kart almost. What usually explains these gaps that maybe doesn't apply here? What does this really tell us about Topsun's value? And crucially, what's the potential upside if Topsun, moves house to KHARD-AQ?
Well, the potential is pretty substantial if you look ahead. Let's talk 2025 projections. For Damium Energy, market estimates are pointing towards an operating profit of maybe 19.5 billion KRW. Now, there aren't official estimates for Topsun, but they've had recent new orders, big ones, around 400 billion KRW just this year. So that strongly suggests Topsun's 2025 revenue could hit 200 billion KRW. And operating profit should be at least 15 billion KRW, conservatively.
Okay, so 15 billion KRW operating profit projected for Topsun in 2025.
Right. Now, here's the implication. If Topsun manages to transfer its listing to COSDQ, and if it gets valued on a similar multiple to Damium Energy, Damium's trading at about 24 times operating profit, then Topsun's fair market cap could be estimated around 360 billion KRW. That's simply the projected 15 billion KRW profit times that 24x multiple.
360 billion KRW compared to 82.8 billion now.
That's a potential increase of 4.3 times. So yeah, our sources suggest Topsun could rise by at least 4 times if it makes that KOSDQ transfer successfully.
At least 4 times. Okay, that's definitely compelling. But moving to KOSDQ isn't just automatic, right? What hurdles are there? Any risks to hitting that kind of valuation if they do transfer?
That's fair. I mean, any market transfer has hoops to jump through. Regulatory approvals, showing consistent profitability, the usual stuff. And market sentiment, it always plays a role. Things can change. But based on the sources, Topsun's financials look solid. Those new orders are really impressive. The potential reward seems to significantly outweigh those standard market transfer risks, which actually brings us neatly to why this transfer seems so likely, and maybe sooner rather than later.
Okay, so the path seems clear enough. Hurdles seem manageable given the potential. So what's the real push? What's the driver making this happen now? Is there someone behind the scenes pushing the button?
There is, and it's a very, very compelling driver. It comes down to a major shareholder, SK Ecoplant. They currently own 20% of Topsun, but that's not all. They also hold 80 billion KRW worth of convertible bonds in Topsun. The conversion price is 18,000 KRW per share. Now, if SK Ecoplant converts all those bonds, their stake jumps from 20% to 47%, almost half the company.
47%. Okay, that's significant control. And these bonds, when do they matter?
Here's the critical date. The maturity date for those convertible bonds is May 28th, 2025. So coming up relatively soon.
Got it. Maturity date next May.
Yeah.
But why does SK Ecoplant care so much about Topsun right now? What's their story?
Right, here's the deeper context. And this is where things get really strategic, you could say. SK Ecoplant actually promised its own investors back in 2022 that SK Ecoplant itself would go public, list by July 2026. However, there's been a big snag. A recent accounting fraud issue popped up involving a subsidiary inflating revenue, apparently. Now, the final details are still emerging, but this makes SK Ecoplant's own listing by that July 2026 deadline look, well, highly unlikely now.
So SK Ecoplant has its own problems, potentially missing its own IPO deadline. How does that connect back to Topsun?
It creates a direct financial pressure point
Like
because they missed that deadline or look likely to. SK Ecoplant might actually be required to buy back some shares from the investors who put money in back in 2022. We're talking about RCPS redeemable convertible preferred shares. Those investors put in about 1 trillion KRW total. SK might have to buy some of that back.
1 trillion KRW. So
Yeah.
they might need to find a lot of cash quickly.
Exactly. They could need significant funds for that potential buyback. So where do they get it? Well, the most logical strategic move. Push hard for Topsun's Chaos Day Q listing. Now, why? Because listing Topsun on Chaos Day Q allows SK Ecoplant to first recover their initial investment in Topsun, which was around 120 billion KRW total if you include the bonds. They'd likely aim for that Chaos Day Q valuation to turn their 120 billion into maybe 240 billion KRW. Plus, they'd almost certainly convert those convertible bonds into stock before the listing or as part of it. That conversion, combined with the Chaos Day Q uplift, could mean a potential 3x return on their Topsun investment in, what, about 1.5 years.
Okay, let me try and pull this all together. It sounds like a fascinating setup. You've got Topsun, the company itself, looking significantly undervalued compared to its Coast AQ peer, Daimyo, especially with strong growth projected. That's one layer. Then on top of that, you had this huge external pressure cooker, SK Ecoplant, the major shareholder, facing its own financial deadline issues, potential buyback obligations. And they see Topsun's Chaos AQ listing not just as an opportunity, but maybe as a necessity to solve their own problems.
That's a perfect summary. It's this confluence of internal undervaluation at Topsun and external, almost forced strategic motivation from SK Ecoplant. It creates this really unique, high-pressure scenario pushing towards a market reevaluation for Topsun.
So the takeaway seems to be this potent mix of clear value disconnect and a powerful, motivated major shareholder.
Precisely. And I think what this deep dive really highlights is how sometimes challenges or pressures at a large company like SK Ecoplant, they can create these surprisingly direct, almost unavoidable opportunities down the chain at a smaller company like Topsun. You know, given the clear financial incentives here, the strategic pressure on SK Ecoplant, it really makes you wonder how often might these kinds of very specific, almost public drivers exist for smaller companies to get revalued, drivers that maybe we just overlook because we're too focused on the company's own story. It's something to think about.